Hello, Panthers fans. Welcome back into Panthers.com. I'm Cassidy Hill. He is Trevor Sikkema, lead draft analyst of PFF. He has been here taking us through mock drafts, positions of need, all leading up to the NFL draft coming up here very, very soon, April 24th in Green Bay. Cornerback, also maybe a position of need. I know this seems a little weird to say this for the Panthers because they just signed J.C. Horn to what was a record-breaking contract for about 5 minutes and a bag of chips. But also bring back Mike Jackson. This duo last year, I know they got picked on a lot because they were on the field for a lot of snaps.
Yeah.
But altogether, when you look at the stats, the best corner duo together in the NFL last year in terms of passes defended. Why do you think this is a position of need? Is it looking long term?
Yeah.
It's not really short term.
No, I think so. And I think the reason why I would say that this is a position of need is because you can never have too many great corners. You truly can't. The NFL it's an arms race on the offensive side of the ball. You see teams that might have two elite wide receivers and they say, well, that's not enough. Look at Cincinnati Bengals, for example. They just brought back Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and they're probably looking at their wide receiver 3 and saying, we could draft one of these guys at some point in this draft. It's just the way that it is. You're trying to score as many points as possible, and as offenses are getting more spread out and more comfortable basing their offense out of 11 personnel and even 10 personnel when you get 4 wide receivers on the field, you have to have the corners to match that. I think that it wasn't long ago where the slot corner, for example, was viewed at as, whoever your number 3 corner is.
Right.
Whoever your number 3 most talented corner is, that's whoever you will put in the slot whenever the team happens to go to 11 personnel. That's not the case anymore. Now you have to draft slot-specific players, and that is genuinely looked at as a starter on your defense. And so I think you just expand that a little bit further. I don't think it's an area of the team where they are the most barren, but it is one of those areas where I think if you have the chance to get a player who increases the talent in your cornerback room, it's paramount. There are also too many teams that we watch, whether it's late season or into the playoffs, if you get one injury here at corner, that could be it for you if you don't have the depth. So I think it's just important for Carolina to remember, and every team in the NFL, you have to stay as talented as you possibly can at the cornerback position.
Right, and a little more depth there this year than there was last year. We saw rookie Shaw Smith-Wade really kind of come on in that nickel spot last year. Trevin Merrick, signed as a free agent, can kind of come up into that spot as well. But to your point, you can never have too many great corners. Who is an early round corner that could be targeted here?
So, obviously early round, we're thinking first round, and Carolina picks in the top 10.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to draft a corner in the top 10. If they were, Will Johnson from Michigan feels like the one that they would like a lot here because I think he's perfect for the cover 3 scheme that Ejiro Evero really liked to lean into last year. Now, ran a lot of cover 3 last year, ran a lot of zone. Is that because you didn't feel as comfortable with your guys up front? I know they've got some extra help now on the defensive line, so maybe that looks a little bit different. Maybe they play a little bit more man, but Will Johnson has experience doing both of those things. And his best plays, in my opinion, I think when you watch that 2023 season from Will Johnson, a lot of people would watch it and say, oh, this is a man coverage corner. Yeah. I watched last season and this season, I go, hold on, his best plays come when he is off the line of scrimmage, when he's sort of in that cover 3, Saban shuffle technique, if you will, where his hips are sort of even or parallel to where the sideline is. He can keep his eyes on the quarterback and he can break on the football. He's got 3 pick sixes in his college career because of exactly that. He's recognizing those short routes. He's recognizing those screens from that off coverage alignment. And so to me, whether it's that length, whether it's going up against top tier competition, coming from that big program, coming from that Jim Harbaugh instilled defense, I think that he would be perfect for certainly what it feels like the Carolina Panthers and Ejiro Evero want to do in that coverage scheme with a lot of zone coverage stuff.
Is Saban shuffle a trademark term?
I don't have it trademarked, so if it is, I'm not sure, but I hear about that all the time when I'm watching coaching clinics, and they're sort of teaching their guys a different way to be able to play cover 3. That is a term that I often hear because Saban was one of the best at teaching it.
Right. I think I've seen him do it a couple of times, even still in his 60s. Corner is one of these positions, too, that you can watch a lot and learn a lot from these all-star games, like the Senior Bowl, the East-West Shrine Bowl. I know you pay a lot of attention to these. This is where you can find some of these mid-round and late-round corners that really kind of impress there. Who is a mid-round guy that has caught your eye either through watching tape or in some of these all-star games?
Yeah, so one of the all-star games that you mentioned, the Senior Bowl, Darien Porter from Iowa State, I think is somebody that they could be really interested in. Now, I think it's more likely that they would pick somebody in the mid and late rounds than they would, like I said, in the first round. And this guy, he's got a lot of the traits that you absolutely love. He's over 6'2", he's almost 200 pounds, and he's got 94th percentile arm length. So when it comes to just being moldable, the body type that you would want to be either able to play press coverage, or he also plays very well in off coverage too, this is what you love. Those long arms, it's a reason why he had a 24% forced incompletion percentage, one of the highest marks in college football last year. So he was able to get his hands on the football, disrupt those catching windows, really being able to disrupt the catch point, be aggressive there. But, you know, sometimes when you talk about these bigger, longer, taller corners, you go, all right, well, are they athlete enough for the NFL? Absolutely, this guy is. In high school, he was a state champion twice in the 400-meter dash, and he was a state champion once in the 200-meter dash. I believe he was also a state champion in the 800 medley. I mean, he is an unreal athlete. He showed that at the combine as well, so all of that was proven to be true. We already saw that on his tape. There are some in-play. There is one play where Iowa is facing Iowa State, and he is lined up as a press man corner on the left side of the defense. Caleb Johnson, the running back from Iowa, gets loose on the right side, is running all the way up the sideline. Caleb Johnson, not a slow running back. Yeah. When Darien Porter realizes what's going on, he gets on his horse and just sprints to exactly where the cutoff point is and stops Caleb Johnson from scoring a touchdown. It was one of the most impressive plays that I watched. And the reason why you see that on his tape is because he's also a special teams ace. He was one of the best special teams players for Iowa State for really 4 years. And this past year was actually his only year as a first-time starter, as a full-time starter, I should say. And so, again, you go like, why were you hiding this guy? Why wasn't he on the field a little bit more? All I know is that when he was on the field for special teams, he's got a couple of blocked kicks as well because of that speed when he's coming off of the edge. So, ton of special teams experience. He's got the length that you love. He's got the athleticism that you love. And in my opinion, he's a scheme fit. So this is definitely a mid-round, maybe third-round draft developed type of a player. Maybe he's a starter for you opposite J.C. Horn someday.
I was about to say, I mean, long and fast, you can develop that into a pretty good corner in the NFL. A late-round guy who has caught your eye, the cornerback position.
So I go more towards scheme fits here because when you talk about late round, there's a reason why they're a late round, especially at corner. Maybe they're not athletic enough, maybe they're not big enough, but if they can play a certain style the way that you like, you feel good about it. O'Donnell Fortune from South Carolina is somebody who, elite name.
Gosh,
yeah, O'Donnell Fortune, great cornerback name, great defensive back name, also great hair as well, as you guys can see from the picture there. He is somebody who, in my opinion, very comfortable in those off-coverage cover 3 formats where, you know, when you look at him on the field, he's got a slender build to him, and it makes him seem a little bit taller and longer than he is. He showed up at the combine, and not that the measurables were terrible. I think that he was a little bit lower in weight than you would want, but he wasn't as tall and long as I thought that he was going to be. But I think he is a decent athlete. One thing I love about him, and one thing that I think South Carolina specifically does very well, Panthers fans would know from J.C. Horn, is they are aggressive in trying to get turnovers, whether not just interceptions, but there are so many times when I watched O'Donnell Fortune, if he was in a situation where he needed to wrap up and tackle, he would. But there were also, like, if somebody else was sort of coming up and doing the wrap-up tackling, he'd go for the ball. Yeah. He'd punch the ball out. And so, like, anytime you have that turnover mentality, I love that about a defensive back. And so I think that style of him playing that off-zone coverage type of alignment, being very comfortable in it, being able to get up and into the catch point, again, not as long of arms as I thought he would be, but you still see on his tape be able to disrupt the catch point, and then just overall that mentality for takeaways, I think is why this defensive staff, I think, would gravitate towards a player like that.
I can see that. Got to see him in person at South Carolina's Pro Day. He seems like a tenacious little thing.
That's tenacious is a great word to describe O'Donnell Fortune.
I pulled that one out of my thesaurus for you. So we see Trevor Sikkema's cornerbacks here. One last question before we wrap up here. You kind of mentioned, like, maybe not top 8 for Will Johnson. Is that too high, or is that possibly a trade back scenario?
Well, I think that if they're trading back for number 8, I think a lot of things probably come on the board for them. It opens up a lot of different stuff because when you're picking in the top 8, I think a lot of people would say, like, okay, it's got to be somebody that disrupts the other team's passer, so basically a pass-rushing defensive lineman at the edge or the interior, or a top tier offensive player. But if you trade down, you're outside of the top 10. If they trade down to maybe the middle of the first round, I think that opens things wide open. You talk about Will Johnson being a fit, maybe a Jahdae Barron from Texas as well, maybe a Savon Revel from South Carolina, depending on how far you move back. Ultimately, I think Johnson is still their best fit. But I think there's a world where you could trade down and still be able to draft a player like that.
Okay. Well, we will find out here soon. We are not done with Trevor yet. We're not going to let him leave just yet. So stay tuned to Panthers.com and Panthers YouTube for more draft coverage from Trevor Sikkema.